Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this special replay from my signature program, A Liquid Plan. I am thrilled to share just a glimpse, one of the powerful days of 30 of this beautiful journey. And I get asked a lot about curses, when people feel like there's some confusing patterns resurfacing for themselves and their children, yet something about it just doesn't feel fair or right, and they aren't playing the victim mode either. It just feels off. So today I'm going to share with you the session from A Liquid Plan where I dive deep into the fascinating world of epigenetics and action archetypes. I'm going to explore with you how our ancestors' experiences might still be influencing us today and what you can do with that knowledge to transform your life. Now, in this class, you're going to discover the concept of epigenetic inheritance, how it affects your behaviors above the genes, and of course, above your conscious awareness. We're going to talk about the 8 main action archetypes and how to harness the power of those action archetypes. Of course, the 9 resistant components that are holding you back when you don't allow those action archetypes to move forward, and the revolutionary technique of epigenetic waterbending. Going to teach you how to create custom epigenetic elixirs using Anahata Codes. And we're going to dive into the flow state technique and how it can help you overcome fears and unlock your full potential. And this, again, is just a taste of what we cover in the full 30-day A Liquid Plan journey. Now, we begin a new cohort on the full moon just a few days from now. So if you're ready to transform your life, rewrite your genetic legacy, and step into your highest potential, I invite you to join us. Head on over to neuro-manifesting.com to secure your spot in this life-changing journey. Now, let's dive into today's class on epigenetics and action archetypes. Enjoy the replay.
We have a lot to cover. Today is going to be mind-blowing, as usual. I want to just, if you have questions, write them out in the Q&A. Make sure that you're in the right, June, July folder, Q&A. But we learn together. And also post in the feed if you're like, oh, man, I really had something, this aha moment. And what about this? Share it. Share it, share it, share it. It's the only way we grow together and this work becomes even more than it is today. And we are still in the waning crescent. Okay, so make sure that you have your moon elixir. I'll put the PDF again of the moon elixir. Now, if you're wondering what the heck is this water why does this work? Go back a few days because we've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 days. Yesterday was Q&A, but before that, we were diving into why water is the key to neuro manifesting and a cornerstone of FST, which is the flow state technique. And so as this ever waning crescent gets smaller and smaller, we're going into the heart of our journey because we're uncovering these unconscious things. And today we're going to get into the action archetypes and epigenetic waterbending. It sounds very heady, but you're going to get it. You're going to totally relate to it because this is something innate in all of us. And I want to remind you that this is the phase of the journey where we can really begin to feel like things are getting worse before better because our self-sabotaging behaviors become more evident. This is why a lot of people don't do the work. They start going down the rabbit hole and they go, oh my God, I'm a mess. Never mind. I'm not willing to actually work through all of this because it's bliss, ignorance is bliss. Some people would prefer to stay in their bubble than to really explore like what's making me tick, and we can feel like as we shine this conscious light on our habits, our thoughts, our feelings, we may be like, wow, I realize now all these things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing, as well the things that I know I should be doing that I'm not. And this is why I always say, guys, just take a loving look, an accepting look, a metacognizant look. Observe the observer. Don't get attached to these thoughts and feelings and emotions because they are just patterns. You are not those thoughts. You are not those emotions. So again, part of awakening and becoming more present, you're going to see just how much you're getting in your own way. And if you want to succeed, you need to take a loving look. You know, we have these big dreams, and sometimes we feel like we're hitting this invisible wall and we don't know what's happening. And this is sort of a relief, but don't take it to extreme. You know, I always say you are responsible for your entire energy signature, but there is a component of your energy signature that you're not responsible for. That's not your fault, so to speak. And that's when epigenetics comes into play. And they are proving that we carry the weight of our ancestors' experiences above the cells, awaiting activation. It's sort of like a warning memo. Some people call it generational curse, right? There's a curse. Can you lift this curse? Well, it's not really a curse. It's a well-meaning message. And there is energy and information above your genes that are passed down for a reason. And I know it's a wild concept when you first hear it, the idea that stress and fear and trauma from your great-great-grandparents could be influencing you today, but it's true. And you're going to feel so much lighter if you're feeling like there's certain aspects of you that really aren't you, and you're trying to wonder, like, why am I this way when I know that I shouldn't be? It could be an epigenetical marker from your ancestors. And, you know, it could be not fear and trauma. It could be as simple as if you're afraid to move past your comfort zone, even when you know that you should be doing it. This could just be an ancestor's survival instinct kicking in. You know, back in their day, the unknown often meant danger. So they developed this really healthy dose of caution. And so you fast forward today, and that same caution might be holding you back from taking that leap into your career, into a relationship, whatever it is, right? So it could also be just this weird nagging feeling like, I'm not good enough, but you had a great childhood. Where is that coming from? It's creeping in, and you know that you could crush it, but you're just like, no, I'm not good enough. This could be, they call it imposter syndrome, when you're like, who am I to, I won't be able to do this. Other people can, but, I'm not good enough or ready enough. And there could be a dash of inherited insecurity in there. Maybe your ancestor, one of them, faced discrimination. Most likely, all of ours did, right? And that warning made you doubt your worth. There's some echo of that doubt still lingering in your DNA above the genes. So this could even be like powerlessness. I mean, good Lord, our ancestors went through a lot. They went through a lot. Yes, we're going through a lot as well. But if you have this feeling like, what's the point in trying? It could be a learned form of helplessness, because generations back, there was a struggle, there was insurmountable odds. And so, that sense of defeat could have been passed down. And I want to be clear, this science is evolving. They're looking into specific ways they can interpret this more. But the study that's been repeatable that opened up this whole epigenetics science, it's relatively new, guys. It's only a couple, like maybe 20 years, something like that. I should look it up. But what they did a couple decades ago to figure this out was they had these poor lab rats. And I hate this story, but boy, the information they garnered was really incredible. And they would take these two rats, or several rats, a male and a female, whatever, and they would shake their cage until they were like injured, like aggressively. While they did that, they would infuse the smell of plumeria into the air. And then the next day they would come back and they'd do it again, but they'd do less shaking. But The rats were displaying the same elevated levels of cortisol and other markers, being like, I'm fearful, right? And then day over day, they would lessen the amount of shaking, but they would still infuse plumeria. And then eventually all they do is infuse plumeria into the air, and they would freak out. Now that's not the study. The study is those two rats gave birth to rats that never experienced the shaking. But what they found down 7 generations, the rats, babies, all the way down, they had an innate fear of the smell of plumeria. Like, wow, that's pretty. So your family tree, that goes up 126 people. You're going to have some baggage. And this is the exciting part, because you're carrying these inherited patterns. You're not stuck with them. You're not stuck with them. They are memories above the genes. And what's above the genes? Water. And what can we do with water? We can encode in new memories. You guys are going to feel so much better. Today is going to be a revolutionary day. When you go to bed tonight, you're going to be like, holy shit, that's all I had to do. I love it. So you can tell your cells a new story. And we can even have conversations with the best version of ourselves, get some insight into them, doppelganger style, which we'll do in upcoming. So we can go in the future and pull through attributes that we want. And we can go in the past and pull through and deactivate, silence the genes. Epigenetics is such a fascinating way to take back your power. And, next time you feel like you're hesitating and you're not sure why, you're doubting, or you feel stuck, take a moment to ask, is this me in this lifetime, or is there some ancient pattern playing out? Maybe. And then pull a code, because you have the power to choose what missing piece of the puzzle, right? Healing, the word healing is a return to the memory of wholeness. And all disease is just a lack of communication. So you're just missing something that you already knew. And when you remember that again, everything becomes okay once more. And so you can honor the struggles of your ancestors while choosing to write this new story for yourself and future generations. How cool is that? Like, if you're young enough and you're learning this, you can do this work ahead of time, and then your kids will be free. And in fact, you can give your children elixirs of water and the codes to undo anything that, maybe your student, your kid is having a hard time with X, Y, and Z in school. And you're just like, this is strange, because, maybe this was from, an ancestor. Pull a code, see what happens. And it's amazing. And so let's talk about, it's not just fear-based tendencies that get imprinted. There are positive ones. This is great, right? Someone overcame something, and so they gave you this, you can do anything persona. And so these are archetypes that across any culture, they're found. They're the same archetypes that you just understand. And we call them action archetypes in the personal development space, because if you embody these archetypes and you allow them to be part of who you are, then you're going to go way further than not. Okay. So these again are, when I go through these are roles and abilities that you already possess. So it's not like you have to earn them. These are personal superpowers that are lying dormant, or perhaps you are nailing some of these, but not all of them perhaps. And you can. And imagine how your life would change if you did empower all of these action archetypes. There are 8 main action archetypes. Don't worry about writing these down. I'm giving you, one of the first things I'm giving you as a bonus today is the Action Archetypes workbook. So it explains all of these. You can, if remember what I said, there's a lot in this journey. Zoom in if you love this. If you're like, yeah, no, I don't really care about action archetypes, zoom out, right? There's no homework. It's up to you how much you want of this information. But we have the navigator, and this archetype is really the superpower persona that's going to give you clarity, direction, strategy, vision. How good at that are you? The scientist, working with logic and analytics and insights and seeing things in a balanced way. The guardian, this is just what it sounds like, wisdom and protection. We have the engineer, which is all about ingenuity, problem solving. We have the warrior, that's courage and resilience. We have the builder, which is about rallying others for a cause and being persuasive. We have the explorer, one who is really curious and creative. And then we have the sage, which is really understanding deep wisdom and perspective. And so each of those action archetypes have a shadow aspect, and a lot of these are passed down. So this is going to keep you from fully expressing that archetype. And you need all of them, don't you? That list is pretty awesome. If you could embody all 8, you'd probably be unstoppable. And so there are archetypes of resistance that come along with the polar opposite end of that action into inaction. And the first one is called allodoxophobic. It's a big word. It just means you have a fear of responsibility. There's the burned. This is fear of failure because I've tried that and it didn't work, etc. The burned. And that can be passed down. I'm telling you. The inopportuned. It's like, oh, you know, I'm afraid to try because people may not accept me and I'll feel rejected. So I'm just going to say that there aren't any opportunities for myself. The blamer. This is when you blame other people, you're actually afraid of being judged and you're a victim, right? Then there's the test believer. This is like, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, then you're never going to see it because you're believing that you can't see it. You know, you've got to believe and then you will see. So undermining faith is the test believer block. Of course, we have the perfectionist. How many times has this reared its ugly head? This, I don't know, I'm not ready, I might be wrong, I'm not good enough yet, you know, the perfectionist. Then we have the scarcist. It's like lack. Everything's scarce. We need to, you know, we can't have fun, go out, spend because there's scarcity. Eat everything on your plate. How much that's been passed down, right? You must eat everything on your plate because there are people starving in the world, right? The distracted. That is like, I'm so overwhelmed that I'm just going to pretend that there's just too much going on. Yes, there's stuff going on, but if it's overwhelmed, that's in your control. And we're going to help you. I'm going to help you with that. And when we get into flow states, especially. Then we have the underestimator, the one that's, you can be afraid of success. You could really, there's a fear of failure, but there's also a fear of your own power. It's a very real thing. And so all of these stacked up from these 126 people can lead to, I'm just not going to go ahead with my dreams. And that's mostly why, as I said yesterday or the day before, 10% of people achieve their goals. Only 10% live up to their full potential. That's sad to me. But you're in the top 10, guys, because you're here and you're doing the work and you want to be here. And so these subconscious blocks are affecting our ability to take action. And the good news is just having self-awareness that they're there and the right tools, you're going to overcome all that. Finally, you know, today is, I think, worth the entire investment of the entire journey to learn this technique. And I call it epigenetic waterbending. And so it allows us to get messages from our vibration about our innate beliefs and our inherent epigenetical makeup, this genetic expression that is us. We can get information from that as to what is our limiting belief? What is the one limiting belief that's affecting us the most? And so I'm going to take you on a journey. That's the second gift today. It's a guided activation. Do it tonight. I would pull a code and see what is the limiting belief that is affecting me the most in reaching we don't have our definite chief aims yet. We're going to get there, but what's holding you back the most from even maybe realizing what it is that you're meant to be doing? And then water has the ability to hold that code. And when you drink it with that intention, well, you're going to put Epi on there. I'm going to tell you how to do it. There's a code for Epi. It's in the prefix category because alchemy, really, when you think about what alchemy is, there's only 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, ether. And everything is just combinations of those 5 elements. And a prefix in the word, let's think about when you're spelling something. Sound, we talk about cymatics and how it creates. Words hold energy and information. And a prefix changes the root of a word when you add it. That's why it's called a prefix. PRE, right? Before. And so one of the prefixes is epi, which means above. So when you use the epi code, because epigenetics means above the genes, you're instructing the water to look at any inherited above the genes data that is blocking you. And you put that epi code in front of the code you need. Let's say you have a fear of public speaking and you're wondering if it's partially inherited. What code is there between 8 and 233? Do I have the book here? Yes. You can download the spreadsheet. There's a limiting belief section too, if you just want to go for the gusto. Like, what limiting belief is holding me back? But you can sit there and go, okay, you know, what assisting frequency is holding me back the most from a ancestor? And you find the code, and then you put epi in front of it. So I pulled Sagittarius. So there's some Sagittarius component for me that I would have to look up, like, what are the shadow sides of Sagittarius? You know, what are the attributes of Sagittarius? I'm not a Sagittarius, but everyone has every component. So maybe I should look up what part of my natal chart is in Sagittarius, right? Like, what is that planet and what does that mean for me to go, oh, it's passed down, you know, like, wow. And then I put epi with it. I'm going to do that later. So choose a code. If you don't want to choose from all the codes, go to the limiting beliefs section and find the code that's best for you. Not with your brain, with your magnetism, with your asking. And then you add the word epi, which is the code 66 space 4 space 9. This will be in the replay notes ahead of it. So I'm going to put that 66 space 4 space 9 ahead of Sagittarius code. Slap it on water, and then take that activation tonight. Drink that water and then press play. Tomorrow will be such a good day and forevermore. It's that easy. It really is. So I'm excited to, like, cognitively look and see, okay, what is the shadow aspect of a Sagittarius, or things that within that sign people sort of struggle with. And also, where is my what is my planet in Sagittarius when I was born? What's my natal chart, to see, oh, you know, it's this planet and that rules whatever. It's like, oh, that was probably passed down. And knowledge is power, guys. So you'll drink the water, press play, And, you know, this is going to change your relationship with fear, because fear is really just false evidence appearing real. And if you choose to befriend it and understand it and have compassion for it, and you learn to flip the resistance. If you haven't listened to the Grids of Success yet, the book that I gave you all, it's 45 minutes long. Next time you're driving, just press play, listen. Or you're walking around or you're cleaning your house, press play. Flipping resistance is a major component of the flow state technique, because we've got to start befriending all of our mess and use it as medicine instead. And then you're free. You're free, because instead of going, oh gosh, dukkha, which we'll get into later in the journey, dukkha is just suffering. You won't suffer anymore. You're going to understand everything's happening in divine timing, and there's a message, there's a way, there's a lesson to be learned and to be grateful for and to use to your advantage in all things. Everything's always working out for me. Today, in every way, I am getting better, even better than before. What were your commitments that you made to yourself on day 2, 3, whatever it was? Go back to those and really start cultivating that knowing. And you could even ask, is there an assisting frequency for highest good based on my, your top 5 affirmations, your auto suggestions, that I don't believe, right? That's so powerful, guys, because you can say stuff until the cows come home. But if you're saying it and at the same time, there's part of you that's going, yeah, right. Yeah. What is that? Why? It's a past thing. It could be your own experience, but it could be even farther past into ancestral data that you can easily take care of. So in the Action Archetype workbook, I've also listed the soul archetypes that I came up with, because we are very spiritual in this circle. You wouldn't be in a liquid plan if you didn't have a spiritual side to you, because you would have not understood what I was saying in the first place. To be in this group, you have to understand that there's more than meets the eye, and that is spirituality in the broadest sense. So there are spiritual archetypes that are action-based that you can also pull codes for. There's the way shower, which is clairvoyance. So is there an assisting frequency that will help me to be more of a way shower, or is there an ancestral block related to clairvoyance? Because that wasn't a cool thing. I remember that they burned witches for being clairvoyant. Like, no. Then, hey, that's a bad thing. You shouldn't be clairvoyant. I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot of baggage we got going on. We have the seer. That's clairsentient. That means you just know. This is the gift I have. I've always had. I thought everyone had it. Growing up, I would tell my mom something is going to happen, and then it would, and she'd be like, how'd you know? And I'd be like, well, doesn't everyone get these visions and things coming into their brain? No. I'll never forget. I was, and I think we all do. That's the thing. I think we all can feel ahead into the most likely timeline that's coming. And if we are afraid of that, that's a shame. I remember I was sitting, I know we got to wrap up quickly. I was sitting in a boardroom on the 10th floor. Anyway, in this fancy building when I was in corporate America, and we were wearing like suits, we were all fancy. We had this big client coming in, and I'm sitting there, I'm paying attention, and all of a sudden it's like someone pressed pause, and I see in my brain this bird, this black bird going smack on the window. And I went, oh, and everyone goes, I can still remember, just like it was yesterday. And I was like, ew. And before I could censor myself, I said, oh my God, that bird just flew into the window. And everyone looked at me like I was freaking cuckoo. And I was like, oh my God, they are going to literally think as soon as I was saying, they're going to think before I could even say nuts in my brain, this black bird goes slam against the window and just like like smeared down. It was terrible, terrible. Must have broke its beak. Anyway, and everyone just, how did you know that? Like, I'm like, well, I just had a vision of it right before it happened. But I digress. There could be some things that you're meant to see that you can't see right now because you've got these ancestral goggles on that were supposed to be good for you. The protector is another one. The gift is discernment. The alchemist is transmutation. Oh, I didn't even finish what I was going to say about the earth, air, fire, water, ether. We only have 5. And if it's a prefix, it changes the manifestation of the mass. And that's what alchemy is. Alchemy is, if you change the energy of something, you change the manifestation of the mass that comes from that energy. That's what alchemy is. So it's transmutation. So that's what you're doing when you're working with the codes and epi above the genes. There's the warrior, fearlessness. There's the unifier, harmony. There's the creator, creativity. The elder is wisdom. So I'm really excited about this process for you. You know, you can identify these reoccurring patterns and emotional states that are holding you back. You can use the Anahata Codes to identify what specific frequency is going to support me with resolving those patterns and building new ones, telling new stories, unraveling the old data and installing the new information that's empowering. And then you can create that elixir, drink that water, observe and reflect on the changes in your thoughts and reactions and feelings and how people come to you in response to that newness. And this is just such a beautiful part of the waning crescent. We're just stripping down everything because when we get to the new moon, we're going to be fully empowered and ready to rock it. And we're going to realize clearly what our real goals are. And then we're going to take inspired action towards them. And we are going to literally level up. So just remember, guys, you are a quantum being. You are a fractal of divine source. You are a symphony of stardust and dreams. And you are a creator. You're here. You have a cosmic birthright. So let's go create the world that is worthy of the magnificence that you already are. And I can't wait to share the Action Archetype workbook with you and the guided activation. Be sure to pull a code. Let me know what you find, guys. I love to see in the feed, like, oh my God, when we did this months ago, I came upon a really massive limiter that I didn't even know existed. And I was shocked. And I thought, oh, this is actually the sequence of events that has happened in my relationships. And it was this limiting belief that I inherited that I was alone, but I'm not alone. But it echoed through everything and it changed everything as well when I installed the assisting frequency. All right, guys, much love to you and yours. I will see y'all tomorrow. Look for the recap and the gifts, and I can't wait to hear what you pull. And as a reminder, you don't have to have the book. You can also ask one of us. If you want to do a range between 8 and 233, what comes to you, ask one of us, and or just download anahatacodes.com for the whole spreadsheet.